Hey there, welcome to the Mountain of God project. My name is Camille. Today is 18th of August 2023. Welcome to video number 60. Today we're going to continue talking about Victorious Church, but today we're going to talk about discipleship. This is one of the most fascinating subjects because if you understand how it's supposed to be done and what kind of things you might want to work on yourself as a person or on yourself as a part of the church, or in any sense of that word, you'll understand that there's so much progress to be done. There's so much blessing to bring to yourself and to the others and to the church, that you would see open door after open door after open door before you. So there are four subjects I want to talk about today, which will help you and help us as a church to make such huge progress that you'll be surprised. And the four subjects are, first of all, the discipleship in doctrine and theology. Second, in personal growth as a spiritual person. Third, in your personal growth as a part of the church, because these two are separate, and we're going to talk about it today. And fourth, personal self-development as a person, as a human being, to become a better person as a person. You see, first of all, we've got to understand that if we see someone new coming to the church, someone who basically, found God and they need discipleship, they need to know what to do, we'll have to start with giving them a doctrinal or theological overview. That's a good word. I think we need to understand that they're going to need to understand who we are and what's going on. Why there's a church? What does it even mean? Is that an organization? Do we really need another religion? Or what's going on? We need to tell them the story about God and Satan being the angel of light who basically rebelled against God and tried to take over his throne. And there's this spiritual conflict. We talked about it in one of the videos. I just want to paint the picture without going into details. But they need to understand that we are in a spiritual conflict, and we as human beings were created to achieve victory over devil as a lower tier beings. That's where we are. And here we are, what to do now. If we paint that picture, we need to give them an understanding who is God, why he is a father, why he is saying that he loves us as children, but then half of the New Testament talks about military and war and spiritual conflict. And we need to tell them how this God is your father and how this whole spiritual world is functioning. We've got to tell them about how it works and what are the rules that we're supposed to understand to be effective in working in it. Because we all know that we fight, not against the flesh and blood. This is a spiritual warfare, and we need to understand what to do to be able to fulfill our mission. And then if we talk about that, we will have to talk about Jesus. We will have to talk about his mission, why he was even here, and how his ministry allowed him to fulfill his mission. What he done exactly that he was able to fulfill his mission. Because then we're going to have to talk about church, and if we're going to tell that we're supposed to continue what Jesus did, we need to know how he did it so we would be able to do it as well, the same way. And we talked about it in previous videos. We'll have to talk about fivefold ministries and how church is supposed to function, that he's supposed to have mission and vision, and understand what God called this specific local church to do and how to be part of that church. But then we'll have to talk about Holy Spirit, because he is the kind of an action figure here, meaning that he is helping us, or he is doing things through us to achieve some specific things. And we're going to have to talk about his function. We're going to have to talk about baptism in Holy Spirit. We'll have to talk about the gifts of the Spirit, the fruits of the Spirit. All that things we'll have to talk about to understand that there is a spiritual power that works with us, in us, and through us to fulfill God's plan for our lives and for the church, for the church and his mission, and in the whole world. Then we'll have to talk and show the power of God in practice. Because you see, the whole point in this is not to talk about philosophy and morality. Because without God's power, this is exactly what we're talking about religion. That's why we have to talk about it and show it in practice, the power of God. We have to see that God is working in our church. And then if we're going to see that, then we have to talk about the world, about Satan, about all this thing, how and why the world looks as it looks like. Because we'll have to explain what's going on and why so many things, especially the liberal line of thinking and the movement, well, in our time goes directly against what God is saying and what God is doing. You won't be able to understand what's going on in the world if you don't understand that this is the world which was built by Satan, who basically was given the authority over by us, by humans, and he's trying to destroy everything and everyone and try to usurp the throne of God, although he won't going to do it. I'm not really sure if he believes it or not, but this way or the other, he's going to try to do it, or at least destroy everything and everyone in his path and take as many people to lake of fire with him. That's why we'll have to talk about world, we have to talk about occult, about Satanism, about all of this stuff that person needs to understand, because then they'll understand this is a war, not just being a church, just because. And then we'll have to talk about eschatology. We're going to have to talk about the time that we are in, the season that we consciously become part of, because God decided that this is the time to put this person in this particular place, in this particular church. It was all well and by design. And we have to talk about it so people will start to look at it and say, okay, so what is my role? Why am I here? That's going to help to go through the second thing that we have to do in a church, which is basically spiritual growth of a person as a person. And we have to talk, and we have to start especially with the new people, although there's so many people who are in the church for a long time, but they still don't know how to do it, how to talk to God. And I'm going to talk about it in every video I can, just because this is supposed to be like a baseline for everything that we do and everything that we talk about in a church and in this context. Everything starts with you being able to hear God's voice. You ask him a question, he gives you an answer. And this is a dialogue, not just monologue. God is not a vending machine that you'll be able to say, I need this and I need that because I have this kind of plan. No, God will tell you, I have this plan for you, I want you to do this, and I want you to go with me. This is completely the other way around. That's why it has to start with people learning to talk to God. Not to pastor, to God. And then we'll have to talk about what is the timeline of growth. What are the stages of spiritual growth? And we have to talk about being a child. When God tells you everything like to a small child, listen, this is that. You're gonna protect. God is gonna protect the people in that time. You can make really big mistakes, and He's gonna give you huge margin of error just so you could learn. And these 2 points are gonna work together, because the time that you're a child, you're gonna learn how to talk to God. Basically, that's the time frame. It's not about learning Bible verses, reading Bible, and learning how to pray beautifully in the church. Although it will be about prayer and reading Bible and so on, because you need to build some kind of knowledge, at least, or as much knowledge as you can. But it's all gonna be based on you learning to talk to God, and He's gonna lead you, and He's gonna help you to understand a lot. But in that time, it's good to teach people to really think about what are the questions that they have. Because if they learn to ask closed questions, meaning yes or no questions, it's going to be much easier to hear yes or no rather than hear a huge answer that in the time that they still don't know how to talk to God. You understand what I'm saying? Also, it's going to help them as a person, because it's working on clarity. But that's the stage of being a child in the spirit. But then there's like a teenagers in the spirit, when God is working on you, helping you to learn even more, talk to Him, and how to understand and how to differentiate what are your thoughts and what is he saying, or how to interpret what he's saying and how he's saying, because maybe he's talking to you verbally, maybe he's talking by your thoughts, maybe he's talking to you by dreams. You've got to understand how to function in it and be good at it and to decipher what is yours and what is his. What is exactly that he said? That's going to be the time that he's going to test you. He's going to give you some tasks. He'll challenge you. And sometimes it's going to be funny, sometimes it's going to be interesting, sometimes it's going to be dark, sometimes it's going to be tough. But if you understand that this is an element of your spiritual growth, you understand, okay, if everything is a lesson and everything is some kind of a test, then let me look at this situation to kind of put my emotions aside and let me think, what can I learn from this? What are the things that I can see definitely that there are lessons that I can take with me? Because then no experience in your life, even the toughest ones, you'll look at it and cry, why God, why did you do this? You'll say, okay, this is what I've learned. But let's move on. And then when you get to like being a mature in your spiritual growth, then you'll understand that you're going to be given a function, and then you're going to be kept accountable for what you've been given, the function, and whatever was given to you. You'll start to see that God is not going to tell you what to do. He's going to start asking questions. Say, what do you think you should do? Or he'll tell you, no, I gave you this. Deal with it. You know me enough so you could do it yourself. Because you'll see that it works exactly as with every parent and a child. You don't want your child to be completely by you asking about everything. No, you want your child to be mature enough to make their own decisions and make good ones. So the fruits of those decisions you might be proud of. The same thing here. God has a plan. He wants you to become mature. And he's going to test you through the previous stages. And now he'll test you because you've been faithful with small. He'll give you something much more advanced. And he's going to keep you accountable. And then when we talk about this as a theory, it will be good to talk with person and help them understand what kind of stage they are in, what they can expect, and why maybe they're right on the border, and that some things might change, and maybe the change is causing frustration, and I don't know what to do, or something changed, and the person who's leading them will tell, listen, you just changed the stage. Now things are going to look different or differently. They need to understand where are they on the stages of the growth. And then you'll have to talk about gifts, about the anointing, about the potential they have, about the skills they have, about the dreams, about the prophecies that they got. All of those things should be written and clear in front of their eyes. Why? Because there's so many people who got a word of prophecy or some prophecies that they got or something that was promised to them by God, and they forgot about it. And then I ask every time when I hear this, why would God tell you this so you could forget? It makes no sense. If he thought that it's a good idea to tell you this years ago, you should write it in your head and keep it close to your heart, because that was given to you in that time for a reason, to direct you in some specific direction. Keep it in front of your eyes, in front of your spiritual eyes as well. And then when we talk all of this, then we're going to talk about personal calling. Because you see, all of this stages, all of this understanding, starting with how to talk to God, leads you towards your calling. Everything that happened in your life is towards preparing you so you could enter your calling prepared and equipped. So if you understand that, then you'll be able to look at your life. Okay, I've learned ABC and XYZ. It seems like there's nothing connecting them, but someday you will. And then you'll say, okay, I can see now that God is leading me that way, and probably I'll be called to this or that specific thing, and I want to kind of embrace the thing that I'm good at, embrace the things that I was taught, so I could really kind of help to push myself to be even better, so I could be prepared. And then when we talk about all of this, it's good to understand that it would be perfect to have a mentor, someone who'll tell you, okay, This is what we see, this is what we can do, this is your kind of possibilities. So this is your plan, and this is your next action to do. So in a year time, you'll be able to look at your past and say, okay, I was there, now I'm here, I can see the progress, I know what's the next step, I'm moving forward. Otherwise, you're going to have people who are just going to walk in your church from wall to the wall, and they're going to do nothing, or they're going to be doing something, but they don't really know why. And there's so many people who walking in the churches and then just changing church after church after church because they don't know where they're going. That's why you need to understand everything, starting with how to talk to God, all of those things, and have a mentor who will tell you, okay, this is the next step, let's go. So when we have this, you've got to understand that this is a completely different thing than how you're supposed to start maturing as a part of the church. Because you start to see that there are different things that are going to be said to you, and different things are going to be said to you as a part of the church. Why? Because maybe you're in your church right now, but what if your God called you to completely something different outside of your church, outside of your town, outside of your outside of your country, outside of your continent? Now, when you're in a church, you might have, I don't know, maybe you need to learn how to lead worship, but your calling would be to start new churches. You don't understand it now, but when you're going to start to build new churches, you're going to need to know how to lead worship, or how to deal with kids, and how to teach kids. And you say, but I'm an apostle. No, you need to understand how to teach kids, because you'll see when you're going to be sent, when you're supposed to be sent, that many things start with kids. Just saying as an example. But that's why you need to understand, how do I supposed to find myself and find my own place in my church? What are, and then we're going to have to talk, what is the function of the church? Do my church know its mission and vision? Because maybe my church is going somewhere, and if I would see my life from like a helicopter view, I would say I'm supposed to be in that church for 3 years, help them moving here, even though my calling is completely different, but doesn't matter. I'm supposed to be in that church to help them understand ABC and help them build because of my anointing, or because I'm good at something. So I'm supposed to help them go there, and then God will take me out of the church and put me somewhere else, so I could continue with my own calling. But I was in that church for a specific time and season, so I could help them with ABC. So that's why I need to understand what is my role in my particular local church, what is the function and the vision and mission of my church. And that's why we talked about it previously, because if you don't know it, and if your church doesn't work really as it's supposed to, what are you going to tell the person? And then we have to talk about gifts, about anointing, about potential, about skills, about dreams, about prophecies, and all of this stuff in context of the church. Because again, maybe I'm called personally to ABC, but now church needs something or someone else or some other function, and I could do it well because I'm skilled, or I know how to do it. Or I will learn how to do it, some new skill, just because I have capacity to open myself to learn something new. That's why I kind of consciously decide to move from a path of my own calling for a specific period of time to help my church grow, and then I'm going to be rewarded with helping and having even broader understanding of things when I'm going to go into my own calling. But you can do this if you understand where the church is going and where I'm going, and how can I help, even though it's not my way or my on a way of my calling directly. And then when we talk about this, again, we're coming back to the mentoring. This is the discipleship. You should have the person who's helping you to grow as a person. So this mentor will be able to pray for you and help you and kind of be someone who's leading you in your personal growth. And then this person would know what kind of gifts you have, or what kind of potential, what kind of dreams, and what was told to you. And he will be able to say, listen, this is the perfect place for you to grow in the church. And because this mentor is praying for you, God will tell him, listen, put him in that specific place because I want him to learn ABC. And that completely changes your view on yourself, completely changes your view on the church. That's an amazing thing that you could do in your church. Mentor in a personal growth, and together but separately in how to help person grow in your church, in your local church. But then something that we kind of, not many churches are working on it, how to grow as a person, how to be someone who is basically mature enough in their emotions, in their intellect, in their own self-understanding and self-acceptance, so we could be mature enough to act like a decent human being in a church and outside of it. And there are things that we could do, like I always say that there are few psychological profiles that if you would understand, that's going to change communication in the church right there on the spot. Do like a very simple psychometric test and you'll see how many things will become obvious, because there are a few different ways of approaching life and we all are different. There are some people who are fast, there are people who are very slow. There are people who are not afraid of conflict, and there are those who are going to run away every time something's going to happen. They don't like conflict, so they're, retract. There are people who are creative, there are people who are logical. There are people who have to experience things, there are people who don't need experience, they need to think it through. Do a simple psychometric test and help people understand themselves and how to talk with someone who has a completely different way of looking at life. The same thing with self-awareness, the same with building character, the same thing with dealing with your own identity, your dreams, your skills, the things that you're drawn to. All of those things you'll be able to work on. If someone's going to tell you, listen, you definitely look like person ABC and you're good at this. Someone who, you'll need to be able to grow in your own self-acceptance, to grow and understand what are things that you're good at, what are things that you're bad at, what are the things that you're supposed to embrace and be even better in it, or some things that you need to correct and learn how to deal with, or what are the things that you're supposed to just leave it alone because it's something that you shouldn't even look at. This is all building your own identity, and it should be something that you'll be able to grow in the church. And then it's good to understand how to be good in functioning as a person, being alone, and how to deal and how to work perfectly when you work in a group. You need to be someone who is capable of dealing with his own life when you're alone. Like, maybe you're alone, maybe, I don't know, maybe you're not married yet, or maybe you're dealing with your business on your own. You need to know how to deal with it and be kind of really resourceful enough and have this understanding and this self-acceptance or self-awareness, so you can just really deal with things when you're alone. But then you get into the group, you know how to work in a group, how to be under the authority if you're not a pastor, even though you might be like the CEO of the biggest Fortune 500 company. You'll be saying, no, in a church I'm just there and doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm just helping. I'm doing there. I'm giving all that I have because I'm not a leader and I know how to deal with authority. You understand what I'm saying? And then you have to know how to deal with your emotions, how to communicate correctly, and how to deal with when something goes wrong, how to talk to people. If you help and kind of teach that in your church, you'll be able not only to save. There's so many situations in your church where when people are arguing, or there's another situation, something or someone is doing something that breaks the church in half. What to do? So many churches are try to survive. No one opens their mouth just because we don't know how to deal with stuff. We don't know how to deal with conflicts. You see, this is something that you learn, and you can teach that if you know how to deal with communication and emotion control. This is something we need to teach in our churches. And then, simple thing, but so amazing, just to share the life, the wisdom of life. Maybe you have someone who knows how to talk publicly. Teach your young guys. Maybe you know how to work out. You're some personal trainer. Get the people and help them. Youngsters gonna run to that very 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 quickly, and there are elders who will need some help to deal with like simple things. to learn how to stretch and do some stuff so they feel better. Maybe you know maybe you're good with taxes. Help people to understand how to do with taxes. Maybe you're a lawyer. They need your help. Maybe you're a mechanic. Teach young guys how to deal with cars. Simple things that they can do. You see, if we're gonna build this community that helps each other with a very life things, life matters, it's gonna change how we look at church. We're gonna invest in it because we will know that there's someone who's gonna help us in every direction. And then again, in all of this, you're supposed to have a mentor. Someone who will tell you, listen, this is where you are, this is what you have to work on, these are the things you're supposed to embrace and really become even better, because that's definitely your calling or talent. And this is something you have to drop. Just leave it alone. This is not yours, just let it go. Then you have to be able to build a plan, know what's the next action plan, or the next action to deal with, and then to be able to look in the air, say, I was here, now I'm here, I can see the progress, I know what's the next step, let's move on. You see, these four things in the church would change everything. We have to teach about doctrine and theology. We need to teach about personal spiritual growth. We need to teach about spiritual growth as a part of the church, and we need to teach how to deal with us as a human beings, to self-development, growth as a person, as in our emotions, in our intellect, and in us as a person. Because if you say, we talk about doctrine and theology, but we don't really do discipleship, then you have the people full of knowledge in their heads, but having no relationship with God. And you'll have this university level discussions that's going to lead nowhere. If you're going to talk about spiritual growth, but in even personal one, but you're not going to teach about the growth as a person, you'll have tons of people who thought that they know everything, but they're going to be so immature as people, they're going to destroy the church from the inside. How many times you've seen that? If you're going to teach about the spiritual growth in the church but not personally, you'll start to see that you produce church who basically sucks all the energy from the people, because you care about the church more than you care about people. And especially those whose calling is outside of the church, they will fall away from the church really fast, because they won't find their place in the church, because what you do in the church is not for me. And they won't have any motivation to do anything in the church, because it's not my way. They don't understand how much they can grow if they do something which is kind of parallel to what they do or completely not. And if you're not going to teach, if you're going to teach everything, but you're not going to teach the mental growth or emotional growth, you'll start to see that people who learn that outside of the church, they'll come and say, listen, you teach about spiritual things, this or that, but you're so immature that it's hard to be with you. And there are many churches who don't teach anything, and then people go outside, become better versions of themselves, because they have to live outside of the church's walls, and then they come into the church and say people are immature. They think they know everything, but they know nothing. They're so full of themselves. They're so full of knowledge. They think that they know everything, but they're just theologians. There's no humility in them. There's no life experience. They talk about power of God, but there's none here. And that's why those who are growing as a people themselves, they're going to walk out of the church. And how many times you've seen that? So you see, this is what I want you to take from this video. There are 4 things that we need to teach in the church to really help it grow from the inside. Talk about doctrine and theology. Help them grow as a people in the Spirit. Help them grow in the Spirit, being part of the church, and help them grow as a people. If you do this, you will start to see growth that you never expect seeing in your church. If you don't, you will see people who are gonna bounce from the walls from one side to the other, or gonna bounce from in between churches, and they're never gonna grow. And you'll start to see people in churches who after 30 years is going to be the same as they were 30 years ago. That's that simple. That's why think about it and do something about it. Because what I want is for you, especially if you're a leader, to see what are the things that I'm missing, what are the things that I want to learn, what are the things that I can bring to my people to change their lives forever, and see God's blessing and the amazing power of God, because we're going to talk about those things. God, this is what I want this video be, and I hope and I bless the people who are listening to it, because I want them to understand how much we can change people's lives, helping them by learning those things, how to know stuff and understand what is going on, how to be the spiritual person and see my own calling, understand what are things that you're teaching me, and that everything is a lesson that you want me to go through to learn, not to be hurt. And what are the things that I can do in the church, because I have abundance to give and abundance to kind of even put my own things on aside to work in the church in things that I'm not even good at. And what are the things that I'm supposed to grow in as a person to become better one who is able to communicate better. I want this whole things to spark in the people, spark this dream of becoming better. I want you to touch them, and I want you to help them and give them mentors, give them people who are going to help them do this. Because I know that you can build your church grounds up, and you can lift your church off the ground if we just start teaching each other and apply discipleship in all of this. Bless your people, Father, and let us grow as a church and fulfill our mission in your holy name. If you like this video, like, share, and comment. If you didn't, comment as well and tell me what you think and what is your experience. And if there's anything you want me to talk about, just give me a shout. I'll be glad to talk about it for you. That being said, see you in the next video.